Hello, little screamers, and welcome back to Scream in Style, where the channel we talk about horror and we create a look based off whatever horror we are talking about. If you're new here, hi, welcome. I am Knuckle. I hope you enjoyed here. I hope you are doing fantastic this winter. Hopefully, it hasn't been too cold, too icy, too snowy. We only had 2 weeks so far to where we had a little bit of snow and a little bit of ice, but now it's warming up. Thank God. I can't wait. Because your girl is a lizard, not a snowman, okay? And if you are returning, hi, how you doing? I've missed you. It's been so long, but I digress. In this video, we are going to talk about the Scream Queens. I am going to go through the 4 that I picked out through the decades, starting from the 70s all the way to the early 2000s. I pick out on a personal bias, yes, of who I believe is the ultimate Scream Queen. And how I am determining this is by 4 points. 1, the difficulty of the situation. 2, are they a proactive, reactive, passive character? 3, their creativity for defending themselves / killing the villains. And 4, how much of a complex cookie are they? Are they the basic cookie cutter? Or do they got some spices and elements, dynamic deliciousness to them? So if you haven't already got your snacks, you might want to, because I might make you hungry throughout this. And while you're at it, get something to wash all that down, and let's get started. So without further ado, here we go. All right, first up we have Sally Hardesty from the 70s of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When I think of Scream Queen, I always think of her first. And if you've seen the movie, you totally understand why. If you haven't, go check it out and let me know if you watched without muting her. Her difficulty level is on high heat here. I mean, the girl has no weapons, no skills in fighting, and she is vastly outnumbered, so the odds are pretty stacked against her. So when it comes to being a passive or a proactive character, Sally goes into full survivalist mode. Not once in the film does she take a second to relax. Throughout the movie, she is constantly willing to put her own body at risk to escape. I mean, the girl jumps through 2 windows and places herself in front of a truck with the risk of the dude running her over. But she doesn't care because her only thought is to get away from this crazy-ass murderous family. In saying that, I believe Sally finds strength not in weapons, but that of her own body. And that's something to acknowledge and definitely admire. She doesn't kill Leatherface, so there is debate on whether she should be considered a final girl, but I don't believe you need to defeat / kill the villain in order to be deemed as one. Surviving is also winning, so I believe she is a final girl. Comment below and let me know where you stand on that. Now, when it comes to her complexity as a character, she's not entirely cookie cutter. She is a grounded, determined, and caring for others type of gal. We don't actually notice her as she was made to blend in the beginning, then come to light as a final girl towards the 3rd act, I believe. So on the cookie cutter scale, Sally is more than just sugar. She's got other spices in her to make her a bit interesting and dynamic. This 70s Scream Queen is a delicious snickerdoodle. Next up, we have Nancy Thompson on Nightmare on Elm Street from our 80s decade. Our teenage warrior queen here has the stove up to the highest point on medium. It's flirting with high. Nancy has a small luxury of having friends to help her. Though little, it's still help, and also family to help her understand and figure out who Freddy is and how to beat him. The high level part comes with it is hard to fight something that only comes in dreams. The game then is completely unknown and not based in concrete reality, so you have to adapt quickly to the new playing field. Plus, you're depriving yourself sleep, which automatically decreases your physical strength and more so on your mental strength to think clearly and intelligently. When it comes to deciding if she is a proactive or reactive character, she at first is passive. She is reacting to the nightmare happening to and around her, but then she flips her switch and becomes proactive and a fighter. When she decides to confront Freddy, she goes into full booby trap amateur Rambo mode. The girl gets crafty and sets up a tripwire, fills a light bulb with gunpowder, hangs a sledgehammer, and puts a deadbolt on her door. It's safe to say this 15-year-old is not having it and comes to understand once you starve Freddy, of your fear, you take away his power over you, and he becomes a harmless monster. Nancy does this and defeats Freddy. Well, we thought she had anyway, but I think it still counts. Regarding to the first film, that is. Because Nancy decides to not only survive, but to fight back, this adds some complexity to her character. She's not just the all-American, virgin, down-to-earth girl next door. She's got fire in her. So, our warrior queen here is a chocolate chip cookie with orange zest with a surprise dash of rainbow sprinkles. Because, I mean, come on. On to our 90s decade, we have our final girl, Stokely, from the movie The Faculty. When it comes to Stokely's situation, she is not too far under Nancy's heat. Stokely is sauteing the veggies on high medium while Nancy is boiling the chicken. When aliens come to take over her high school, Stokely's advantage is that she's not alone, as she has people around her who band together to defeat the aliens. People that combine their smarts and come up with a way to find out who the aliens are, by some good old make-it-yourself backdoor buying chemistry class drugs. She's more reactive than proactive. I'd say maybe 60 reactive and 40 proactive. Stokely is proactive in the sense of she's the one who gets everybody on the right track and how to defeat the alien due to her knowledge of all things horror and science fiction, which in turn has everyone coming to her for advice. So when it comes to creative kills or defending herself, she isn't the one to kill the alien queen, but she is the one who said on how to kill her. So without a doubt, Stokely gets credit. And defending herself, well, I don't recall her doing much other than running with the group and the gun, so let me know if I forgot if she did. Commenting on her character dimension, Stokely is a great early attempt at writing a dynamic character. However, I don't see her character as solid and thoroughly fleshed out. She's more of a jello substance of complexity. You know, she's got the flesh, but I can see through it for the most part. The complexity part for me is how she lets her peers think she is a lesbian because it was easier for her to be bullied about a false part of herself rather than an actual true part of herself that would genuinely hurt and affect her. By going along with the charade, she is instantly made an outcast and is left alone, which is what she wants. She was at the time an interesting, and I go as far as to say as an aesthetically striking character, which because of her appearance, she came off as mysterious and you were intrigued. Stokely for me, and I think for others too, she is our first goth girl representative in horror. Oh, but quick sidebar, if there are earlier horror goths, please share them below. I would love to see that. But now, because our girl is goth, Stokely is a dark double chocolate fudge cookie with a surprising pastel gooey center. Why the pastel filling? Because at the end of the film, she is happier and wearing bright colors. Although, I do hate that she ditched her goth look. I mean, I personally think it would have been great to make her a pastel goth at the end. She would have killed that. Now on to our last final girl of the early 2000s. Without question, difficulty level here is high, no medium about it. Sarah is cremating the pizza in the brick oven, her food on the stove is smoking and setting off the smoke alarms. Now, yes, she does have friends like Nancy and Stokely to help, but when your friends start accidentally and intentionally murdering each other without alien influence, on top of humanoid crawlers that outnumber you, your chances get slim real quick. So let's go over this. She's in a cave deep underground where nobody except who the people she's with know where she's at. She has limited weapons and supplies, has no map of the cave system, and like I said, backstabbing friends who, or in this case, one in a horde of an underground humanoid species gunning for her. The situation is dire. Despite her having a freak out moment and her friend helped her through the panic attack, she's not a passive character and is proactive. She pushes forward, trying to get out and fights her way through both friends and the monsters with her. Now, when it comes to her kills, the woman's got 4 kills concerning the crawlers, then 1 more making it 5, I believe, if you count her friend. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let's go through them, shall we? We got kicking to death, stabbing the female crawler with a bone tooth, bludgeoning with what looked like a femur bone, then the last and more personal hands-on, sticking her thumbs in one of the crawler's eyes. As I said in my last video regarding Sarah, she is one of the most complex written characters of the 2000s, as she's relatable and morally gray. I explain in deeper detail in my last video if you'd like to check it out. But because of this, Sarah on the cookie cutter scale, well, she is an oatmeal pumpkin spice ice cream sandwich cookie with some cherry and chocolate drizzle on top. And that concludes the 4 Scream Queens. We went on a journey. But now it is time for me to announce who I believe is the ultimate Scream Queen out of the 4. And I have a top 2. Nancy Thompson from Freddy and Sarah from The Descent. These two keep ping-ponging back and forth in my head, and it's so hard to choose between the two. I honestly feel like these girls match up pretty well. They both in the beginning react to what is happening to them, and then they both flip a switch and decide to become a fighter no matter what. They confront their demons that they're fighting against. And even more so, they think they've defeated the villain, but when they both come back in later movies, they both die. Spoiler alert, but I'm just saying, by now you should have seen it. I like how each of them broke out of the mold a little bit. The difference here is that you have a 15-year-old girl and I think a 30-something-year-old woman, maybe late 20s. They both have different experiences and maturity. You can relate to them on both levels, depending on how old you are. God, this is so hard. I don't know. Can't I just mean girl this, break apart my tiara, and start handing it off to all the winners? That's how I feel right now. If you're going for a purity level and someone who, no matter what, is trying to save the day of friends and family, regardless of the type of people they are, obviously it's Nancy. But then if you go for someone who's a bit more complex and morally gray, more realistic, you're gonna go with Sarah. What do I want? I want both. Can't I just pick both? I mean, technically I really could. But the goal here was to pick one. Do I go back on my word here? Do I pick 2? Or do I stick to only doing 1? You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do 1. So the winner, by the hair on a monkey's ass, for me is Sarah. All for the fact of, I believe she is a more realistic character on how people would act in these situations. At least in that situation, in her circumstance, you know, each to their own. Oh, don't do it, don't go back. Yes, Sarah, I'm sticking with Sarah. Nancy has such a soft spot in my heart, but Sarah, you're it. You're the one. Okay, now that I've had a mental nervous breakdown, that concludes our series of the final girls from the 70s all the way up to the early 2000s. What do you think? Who should have won? Do you agree? And why do you like them? Did you even like the movies? Stay just a little bit longer to see what makeup I have come up with this video. You guys have an awesome day, fantastic month. Be good, be kind to one another.
Since I don't have prosthetics, I wasn't able to really capture the look of the crawlers, so I went with the next best thing, and that was Buffy the Vampire Slayer vampire look. I felt that they were similar enough to where I could just have fun with it.